Welcome to the latest Greyhound Star Zoom and slightly different format this evening. Hopefully a little bit shorter because I realise some people are struggling with the 45 minute editions. Uh, Guest tonight is Clare Hadden, a lady I don't think who's probably well known to many, at least having not spoken to her, but certainly her Facebook um, group Your Ground's history is particularly well known and has been acknowledged even by GBGB just recently. We'll go into that in a minute. So, welcome, Clare, and Your Ground's history. One of the things that I hadn't realised about you is that you're actually quite new to greyhounds, aren't you? You haven't been in the industry very long at all.
Yes, good evening, Floyd. I haven't been connected to the industry for very long, around about 7 years, but I have had greyhounds for many years, but retired greyhounds mostly.
Now, you were telling me there was an interesting story about your first one, and kind of given a little bit of a warning by your trainer about making sure that you looked after him. What was the background to that one?
Well, it goes back quite a few years, and we'd just come back from South Africa, and I, of course, wanted a retired greyhound. I was put in touch with a trainer from Pelaw Grange track, and we went up to see him, and he brought out this beautiful greyhound. And I was quite nervous about asking how much he was going to cost. I was sure he was going to be far too expensive for me. But the trainer said, no, he's free. You can have him. He's retired. But you've got to promise you will look after him. And I will come and check. I'm not having anybody saying I send my dogs to that Dave to get the captive bolt through their heads. And
Yeah,
he did come round and check that the dog was all right, and he kept in touch with me for many years afterwards.
yeah, because I gather you're in the northeast, and of course the famous Seaham incident, which the Greyhound
Yes, it was just
have made,
after that.
yeah, well they made a great kind of deal of money out of that, and one of the things I have to tell people, particularly those people who are new to the industry, is that despite what's often said, of course, the guy had nothing at all to do with the ground industry, and indeed a very small fraction of the animals that he disposed of were of course, were greyhounds, but there were dogs and cats and God knows all breeds of kind of animals. Where people literally just saw a cheap opportunity. However, moving on, let's a little bit more constructive. Um, so, presumably, when you first got involved, what you could have really have done with is a Facebook page like Your Ground's History.
Yes, absolutely. I had Socks, the dog I've just mentioned now, for quite a few years, and I had no idea what his history was. I just assumed he hadn't been a particularly good racer. And it was only when I started fostering greyhounds for the Retired Greyhound Trust, as it was then, that I found out about greyhound data and logged onto it. And I was very excited to find that this dog's whole pedigree was on there, and he was actually very well bred dog, and he had won races, and it was very exciting for me. And in time, as I became more involved with greyhounds, I realized that a lot of other people wanted to know their dog's history. And from other Facebook groups that I've got, they would ask me, can you find out about my dog? And this led to me deciding to form this group, of course, assisted by Elaine Moore and Viv Clements, who do such magnificent work tracing the histories of these dogs. And it just started. We had no idea it was going to become so popular, of course.
Yeah, now I gather it's over 8,000 members now.
Yes, we've just clocked 8,200 tonight.
That's absolutely incredible. And I said when we spoke previously, it was to me it was this kind of the simplest ideas that the chance for people who have a retired dog and don't know anything about him, but have an interest. I mean, we have one here, and the amount of people who just have been fascinated to see a bit of video of her winning a race and they find it so exciting. I take it you kind of get that response as well from people as they learn a little more.
Absolutely, yes. People come on and they say, well, we've got a dog and he's called Dusty, but that's all we know. So I don't suppose you'll be able to find out anything. And we say to them, well, take a picture of his ears and, we'll have a look. And Viv does wonderful work tracing them from the ear marks. And within a matter of hours, we can get back to them and say, this is your dog, this is his name, this is his breeding, he won this, he raced that. Elaine usually manages to find some racing footage. And we've had people in tears and absolutely ecstatic. And they say they're actually in their living room cheering the dog on as he's doing his race. They get very excited and emotional about it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because, of course, for the greyhound owners, they are used to that, and then for
Yes.
people who are the new owners, then to go, do you know what? This is, this is a dog I knew nothing about, and suddenly he has a history that is something that really I find of interest. What kind of what do you find that the main subjects that people are interested in? Is it the pedigree? Is it the racing career? Is what kind of things do they want to?
It varies. A big interest point is often, why did the dog retire? And they're interested to hear what age dogs generally retire at, or if the dog has retired due to any type of an injury, what kind of injury. And this is where this thing where the trainers come on, or the previous owners can often say, well, the dog retired because it dislocated a toe, or it did this or it did that. And it's very valuable information for the new adopter to know that maybe the dog has perhaps had a shoulder injury, let's say, and that's something they can look out for in later life.
Mm.
Or if it's had a broken hock, for instance, that they know to be a little bit careful letting the dog run off lead and that kind of thing.
Would you say the majority of people who have no background in with greyhound racing, do you think that the majority of them are coming with a fairly negative view?
We have had people with a negative view. Some, I think, don't really know what to expect. And yes, we have a lot that are very positive about it. I hope that we have been able to change a lot of negative people's minds about the greyhound industry. I know that we definitely have changed a lot of minds. You can't win everybody over, of course, but I would like to think that we do present racing in a good light.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that occurs to me, having been on your site many times, is that you have to tread a careful line because you have people who will come on there and they are interested, and some of them still are quite negative about the industry, and it isn't a sort of a pro greyhound site specifically, and I know you have to be a little bit careful. You were telling me a story about certain sorts of footage that you didn't really think was appropriate. That it looked as though you were kind of endorsing training or showing showing the training of dogs, where really it's about connecting the two sides of a greyhound's life, isn't it?
Yes, I think Linda Bonner put it very well when she said it joins the dots from the dog being born through his training and right through to his retirement. And that's what we try to do. And any aspect that has to do with that dog on that page, we're interested in. But obviously, it's not particularly relevant to have people posting footage of their dogs in training. It is for retired dogs and their histories.
Yeah, very, very much so. And you were telling me an interesting story because I know there's a big debate on at the moment, which I'm not going to get embroiled in, other than to have a simple reference to it about this connection between rescued and retired. And I think your story is quite interesting, if you wouldn't mind sharing it.
Well, as everybody will be familiar, you walk in the street with your retired dogs, and somebody will stop you and say, oh, they're beautiful. Are they rescues? Well, I don't particularly hate the word rescue because I understand a lot of people use it perfectly innocently. They just mean it's a dog that wasn't bought as a puppy from a breeder, it's a dog that was rehomed. So normally what I say to them is, well, no, they're not rescued. These two are my retired dogs. They raced for me and we keep them when they're finished and they live with me at home now. But the third one is actually a rescue. She was picked up by the dog warden. She was a stray. And yes, that is sad. She came from a pet home. They moved away and they left her behind. So she was a genuine rescue.
Yes, of course.
And it sort of explains it quite nicely. And then of course everybody's always very interested to hear, oh, did they run fast? Where did they race? Did they win a lot? Did they earn you lots of money? And I say no, but they certainly used a lot of my money.
Yeah, I know you've got some nice stories again that because I've been following them on the page. You've had a lot of owners donate trophies and jackets and all kinds of things, haven't you?
Yes, we have Annalise Thompson. She regularly, if she picks up one of her dogs on the page, she will forward trophies and jackets and that kind of thing, as does Rebecca Perkins, Kelly Winderbank, Jim Parker, Wendy Mapleton, too many to name. And that's been fantastically exciting for the people receiving that. They usually get the dog to pose with them wearing it and they post it on the page, which is fantastic for everyone.
Yeah. Would there be any sort of message to owners who are looking to put their greyhound for retirement? Is there anything that they would need to do? Is there anything that would help you in terms of the dog, any information that they would have, or is it what kind of stuff do you struggle with basically?
Um, do you mean in terms of tracing the dog's history?
Yeah, I mean, how difficult is it to make that connection? I mean, what are people looking for that you're struggling to supply?
The main thing, if we know the dog's name, his proper name,
Yeah,
his racing name, then it's straightforward from there. Then you can trace any dog. If we don't have his name, then Viv gets on with it, tracing it through the earmarks, but that takes a bit longer.
yeah,
And if it's a dog that's never been registered, of course, then that also takes a bit longer. You know, a dog that didn't race.
yes, of
But of
course.
course, they're all traceable. You just have to know how to do it. And this is what makes it so fascinating. In fact, we had a very interesting thing a couple of days ago. A lady who works in a care home came onto the group and she said one of her people at the care home, a very elderly gentleman, had been chatting to her and saying that his dad had trained greyhounds and he trained two Waterloo Cup winners. And all he could remember, this elderly gent, was the dogs' names. One was Grenade and the other one was Genial Nobleman.
Yeah,
And we got onto this, again, mainly Viv, and traced these dogs. And one turned out it was actually called Hand Grenade. And
yes,
he won the Waterloo Cup in 1936. Genial Nobleman won it in 1933. And of course, we found their pedigrees there on Greyhound data with all the history and everything. And then everyone was coming onto the group and posting pictures of cigarette cards that they'd had of these dogs and write ups and catalogues and all sorts. It was absolutely fascinating. And of course, to think that a greyhound from that period so long ago can still be traced is
yeah. That is
fascinating.
fantastic. I mean, I'm not a coursing man, but I've heard of both of the two Waterloo
Uh-huh.
Cup winners. I mean, it's incredible. Oh, that's
Yes.
that's a lovely story. Before I let you go, because as I said, I'm trying to keep these short and sweet. Leaflets. Tell me about leaflets.
Well, we have we decided last year, another of my brainwaves, was to have some leaflets published. They look like that.
Yeah,
And the idea was to distribute them to rehoming centres who could then include them in their adoption packs and enabling new owners to find the group easily. And the GBGB came on board with this and very generously have assisted financially. And we've just finished, the last batch was posted this morning. And last night, we had the very first one from Barking Rehoming Centre, a dog called Mind Your Biscuits, which is a rather cute name, we thought. He belongs to Veronica Fletcher. She calls him Mindy. And he was the first dog that we traced that was referred to as via one of the leaflets. So we're hoping these will enable lots more people to get in touch with us. Hopefully everyone that adopts a retired greyhound will know where to find his history as a result of this.
That is absolutely fantastic. I think I speak for everybody on the kind of the racing side that we're so impressed with what you're doing. We think it's lovely that you're making the effort, and I don't know, helping bring things together, and hopefully introducing some people to the greyhound industry. Maybe are slightly cynical about it, slightly cautious about what we are. We're kind of the fiends that I know abuse dogs, and for the owners. I had a conversation with a lady quite recently who was quite clearly anti, and she sent me quite a nasty email. And we ended up getting on reasonably well. And I said to her, you know, if there's a consolation in all of this, you will be finding out that your dog didn't have a horrible life. It had a different life. It had a life that wasn't as a pet, but it loved it during the time in its racing career. And I would have thought anybody that owns a pet would like to know that actually, although it's a different life, it isn't. They're not saving it. It's not a rescue. It's just an alternative way for the dog to spend the latter part of its lifetime. But thank you very much for joining me. I hope everybody who's never visited the Facebook page, Your Grounds History, will now make the effort to do so. This will get bigger and bigger, and hopefully when we get to that 10,000 mark, perhaps I can get you back on here again.
That would be lovely. Thank you very much.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.